Most people think speaking more makes them sound smarter or more confident, but often the opposite is true. Speaking less doesn't mean staying quiet out of fear or shyness. It means learning when to speak, how to listen, and what really deserves your voice. In a world where everyone is in a rush to say something, the power of calm, clear, and thoughtful silence is rare and valuable. This isn't about becoming passive, it's about becoming wise. You begin to realize that the more you observe, the more you understand, the more you listen, the better you connect. And when you do speak, your words carry more weight because they come from clarity, not impulse. This book is for people who want to stop reacting and start responding. It's for people who are tired of being misunderstood or feeling like their words never land right. It's for anyone ready to build better self-control, deeper relationships, and a calmer mind. Each chapter gives you something real to work with, something you can start doing today. You'll learn how to listen with full attention, read people's true feelings without them saying a word, and use silence as a strength. You'll also learn how to ask questions that lead to honest conversations, slow down your speech to think more clearly, and express yourself with fewer, stronger words. This isn't just theory, it's daily practice. It's a way to live and lead that brings more peace, more meaning, and more control into your life. You don't need to have perfect communication skills or years of training. You just need to start paying attention to yourself, to others, and to the space between what's said and what's really meant. That's where real understanding lives. That's where change begins. If you've ever felt like you talk too much and still say too little, or like no one really hears what you're trying to say, this is your chance to shift. Not by doing more, but by doing better. Speak less, understand more. Start now. Chapter 1. Train yourself to listen with full attention daily. Most people hear, but very few truly listen. Listening has become a lost art in a world full of noise, distractions, and the constant urge to respond. We live in a time when everyone wants to speak, share, and be heard, yet very few are willing to stay silent and absorb. But if you want to grow, understand deeply, and make a lasting impact on others, you must train yourself to listen with full attention every single day. Not just occasionally or when it's convenient, but as a way of life. Listening is more than hearing words. It's about giving your full presence to another human being. It's about putting your own thoughts aside for a moment and stepping into someone else's world. When you listen with full attention, you begin to notice things that were invisible before: the emotions behind words, the intentions behind actions, and the truth behind the surface. This kind of listening is powerful. It transforms relationships, deepens understanding, and strengthens character. It's one of the most underrated and valuable skills a person can develop. To listen with full attention means being mentally, emotionally, and physically present. Your mind isn't racing with thoughts about what to say next. Your eyes are not distracted by a screen. Your body language shows you care. You're not just waiting for your turn to speak. You are giving the other person your full and sincere attention. This kind of listening is rare, and because it is rare, it is respected. When you give someone your attention, they feel valued, they open up, they trust you, and in return you gain insight that can't be learned from talking. The first step is to slow down. Pay attention to how often your mind is rushing ahead in conversations. Notice the urge to interrupt or offer advice before the other person finishes speaking. Recognize how often you're distracted by your phone, your thoughts, or your environment. Slowing down means becoming aware of your own impatience. It means developing the discipline to remain quiet, even when you think you already know what's coming. It's resisting the need to dominate the space with your voice and learning to create space with your silence. When you begin training yourself to listen with full attention, you will experience a shift in how you relate to people. You'll notice subtleties in tone, pauses between words, and the emotions behind facial expressions. You'll start to understand what people are not saying as much as what they are saying. This depth of understanding builds empathy. It helps you connect with others not on a surface level, but in a way that is real and meaningful. Relationships become deeper. Conflicts are resolved with more ease. Trust grows. You stop assuming and you start understanding. Listening also helps you become more patient. In our rush to solve problems or express opinions, we often miss the bigger picture. Listening forces you to pause, and in that pause you gain clarity. You begin to see situations from different angles. You become less reactive and more thoughtful. You learn to respond with intention instead of emotion. This is one of the most powerful traits of strong and wise individuals, the ability to pause, absorb, and then act from a place of clarity rather than impulse. If you want to build this skill, start with small changes. Put your phone down when someone is talking to you. Look them in the eyes. Nod to show you're engaged. Ask them to continue when they pause. Give them time to finish their thoughts. Don't rush in with solutions or stories of your own. Just be there, fully. Give them the gift of your attention. You will be surprised how this one small act can shift your relationships. You must also practice listening to yourself. Pay attention to the inner noise in your mind. Notice the judgments, assumptions, and stories you tell yourself while someone else is speaking. Notice when your ego is trying to take control of the conversation. Listening is not just about the other person. It's about mastering your own internal distractions. The more you understand your own mental habits, the better you become at silencing them when someone else is speaking. And when you do that, you begin to experience the peace that comes from being truly present. Listening with full attention also enhances your ability to learn. When you listen well, you absorb more. Whether you're in a meeting, reading a book, or in conversation with a friend, deep listening helps you retain knowledge. It keeps your mind focused. It helps you extract insights that others miss. Over time, this compound effect makes you wiser. You begin to connect the dots between ideas. You remember important details. You notice patterns, and most importantly, you develop a calm and steady presence that people respect. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who can hold space, who can understand deeply, and who can respond with clarity. Listening is how you become one of those people. It's not a passive act, it's an intentional practice, and like any skill, it grows with effort. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. The goal is not perfection but progress. Even if you improve your listening by just a little each day, over time the impact will be enormous. To take action today, begin with one conversation, choose someone you care about, and commit to listening to them with your full attention. Before they speak, remind yourself to stay silent until they finish. Focus only on their words, their tone, and their body language. Resist the urge to think about your reply. At the end, instead of giving advice, ask one question to understand more deeply. Make that your practice. One conversation at a time, one day at a time, over weeks and months, you will notice how much more you understand others and yourself. You will also notice that people begin to change how they relate to you. They will feel safer around you. They will share more. They will come to you for clarity, not just comfort. Because when people feel heard, they trust. And when they trust, they open the door to real transformation. Listening is one of the most generous things you can offer another person. It costs nothing, but it can change everything. The truth is, every moment is an opportunity to listen better. Every interaction is a test of your presence, and the more you pay attention, the more wisdom you will gather. You will see patterns in how people express their fears, their hopes, and their truths. You will learn to read between the lines. You will pick up on things most people overlook. You will start seeing people not just as they appear, but as they truly are. That level of awareness is powerful. It helps you navigate life with more grace and less confusion. Listening also teaches humility. It reminds you that your perspective is not the only one, that your opinion is not always needed, that sometimes the most helpful thing you can do is to simply be there, open, attentive, and quiet. This humility is strength. It keeps you grounded, it helps you grow, and it deepens your wisdom with every interaction. If you want to build strong leadership, start with listening. If you want to build meaningful relationships, start with listening. If you want to improve your emotional intelligence, start with listening. The foundation of every important human skill is the ability to listen deeply and fully. There is no shortcut to it. But once you develop it, everything in your life improves. You also begin to speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because you realize that listening often says more. You choose your words with care. You speak only when necessary. Your words carry more weight because they come from a place of thoughtfulness, not urgency. Silence becomes a strength, and in that silence, others begin to lean in. They sense your depth. They value your insight. This is how influence is built, not by saying more, but by understanding more. As you go through your day, treat every interaction as practice, whether you're with a friend, a co-worker, a stranger, or even with yourself in reflection. Practice being present. Observe without judgment. Resist the urge to speak too soon, and keep reminding yourself that understanding comes from attention, not assumption. Make it a personal standard to be someone who listens well. Be the one who creates space for others. Be the one who pays attention to details. Be the one who makes people feel seen and heard. Over time, this will not only improve your relationships, but it will also shape you into someone of deeper wisdom and greater strength. There will be days when it's hard, when you're tired, distracted, or emotionally overwhelmed. Those are the moments when listening becomes a discipline, not something you feel like doing, but something you choose to do because of who you are becoming. Growth is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Remember, listening is not about perfection, it's about practice. Every day is a chance to improve. Every conversation is a chance to build character, and every moment of presence brings you closer to the person you are meant to be. So begin today, not tomorrow. Start now. The next person you speak with, give them your full attention. Listen not just to reply, but to understand. Don't just hear their words, feel their meaning. Observe their tone, their pace, their pauses. Allow your silence to be the bridge between you, and through that silence, through that presence, you will begin to understand more than ever before, and that is how true transformation begins. Chapter 2. Observe people carefully to understand what drives them. Most people walk through life focused only on their own thoughts, their own needs, and their own perspective. But to truly grow, build strong connections, and make wise decisions, you must learn to see beyond yourself. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is the ability to observe people carefully, not to judge them, but to understand them. When you slow down and pay close attention, you begin to notice patterns, behaviors, and hidden motives that others miss. You begin to understand what truly drives a person from the inside. Everyone is motivated by something. Some are driven by recognition, others seek safety, love, power, or freedom. But most people are not even aware of what fuels their actions. They move through life on autopilot, reacting based on past experiences, buried fears, or unspoken desires. If you want to understand people deeply, you must look past the surface. You must become a quiet student of human nature, curious, observant, and patient. This kind of awareness allows you to connect with people more honestly and respond to them more wisely. Start by watching what people do more than what they say. Words can be misleading. People often say what they think they should say, or what they think others want to hear, but their consistent actions tell the real story. Notice how someone behaves under pressure, how they treat people who can't give them anything, how they respond when things don't go their way. These small moments reveal more about a person's true character than any words ever could. The way someone handles discomfort is one of the clearest reflections of what they value. Look for emotional patterns. Everyone has emotional triggers, situations that cause them to react strongly. Some people shut down when they feel ignored. Others become defensive when they feel criticized. When you start to recognize these patterns in the people around you, you begin to understand what they are trying to protect or avoid. This awareness is not for manipulation. It's for empathy. Understanding what drives someone allows you to see them more clearly and respond with wisdom rather than frustration. Pay attention to energy. People carry energy in their body language, in the way they enter a room, and in how they speak. Notice who seems anxious, even when they're smiling. Notice who seems calm, even when there's tension. Notice who changes their behavior depending on who they are around. These observations help you understand what people need to feel safe and seen. They also help you develop emotional intelligence, the ability to read between the lines and respond with grace. Don't just observe behavior in moments of calm. Watch closely during moments of tension, disappointment, or fear. That's when people reveal their deeper layers. That's when their core beliefs and insecurities show up. If someone becomes angry when ignored, they may be driven by a need for validation. If someone avoids conflict at all costs, they may be driven by a fear of rejection. When you observe with curiosity instead of judgment, you begin to see these responses as signals, not flaws. Also observe yourself in the presence of others. Notice who you feel comfortable around and who makes you tense. Your reactions can reveal just as much about you as theirs do about them. Sometimes your discomfort is a sign of something unresolved within you. Other times it's your intuition picking up on something real. The more honest you are about your own patterns, the better you'll be at seeing others clearly. One of the most overlooked ways to understand what drives someone is by listening to what they repeat. What stories do they always come back to? What topics do they talk about most passionately? What frustrations come up again and again in their words? These patterns point to what matters most to them. A person who often talks about being misunderstood may be seeking deeper connection. Someone who complains frequently about being unappreciated may crave recognition. These repeated themes are clues to their inner world. Another key is to observe who people admire. Who do they respect? Who do they imitate? Who do they talk about as role models? The people someone looks up to often reflect the qualities they value or want to develop in themselves. When you pay attention to their influences, you get a clearer sense of their goals, beliefs, and motivations. People are rarely aware of how much their environment shapes them, but the clues are always there. Be especially attentive to how people spend their time. How someone uses their free time tells you a lot about what they prioritize. Are they constantly chasing distractions? Are they building something meaningful? Do they avoid stillness or do they seek it out? Time is one of the most honest indicators of values. People may say they care about growth or relationships, but if they spend every moment avoiding discomfort or chasing entertainment, that's what truly drives them. Observation helps you cut through the noise and see the truth. It's important to approach this kind of awareness with humility. This isn't about being better than others or trying to figure them out. It's about seeing people more clearly so you can relate to them more deeply. It's about building patience and presence. When you observe without judgment, you gain insight. When you observe with kindness, you gain connection. You become someone who people feel safe around because they feel seen without being evaluated. If you want to make this a daily practice, start simple. In every conversation today, take a mental step back and just watch. Notice tone, body language, energy shifts, and emotional patterns. Pay attention to what people emphasize. Ask yourself, what might this person need right now, Or what are they trying to express underneath their words? These simple questions guide you toward deeper understanding. This habit will also help you lead more effectively. Whether you're in a leadership role at work, in your family, or in your community, the ability to read people and understand what drives them is essential. It allows you to meet people where they are, to motivate them with empathy, and to communicate in a way that resonates. Great leaders are not just good speakers, they are great observers. They understand people not by talking over them but by noticing what others miss. Over time, you'll develop a stronger sense of discernment. You'll be able to tell when someone is acting from fear versus when they're acting from integrity. You'll be able to tell when someone needs encouragement versus when they need boundaries. And most importantly, you'll begin to understand yourself more deeply, because the more you observe others, the more you start to see your own patterns reflected back. That awareness is what leads to real growth. So build this habit, make it part of how you live. Choose to be someone who sees people not just as they appear but as they truly are. Practice observing not with cold detachment, but with warmth and presence. When you develop this kind of insight, you become a better friend, partner, leader, and human being. You stop reacting blindly and start responding wisely. You stop living in assumption and start living in awareness. And that shift changes everything. Chapter 3. Reflect quietly before reacting to any situation. Every moment in life presents us with a choice to react instantly or to respond with thought. Most people move quickly from feeling to action. Something happens, an emotion is triggered, and they react without pausing to reflect. This cycle often leads to regret, misunderstanding, and unnecessary conflict. Growth begins the moment you break that cycle. True strength lies not in controlling others or dominating situations, but in mastering the space between stimulus and response. That space is where your power lives. That space is where your character is formed. Pausing before reacting is not about being passive. It is about gaining clarity before choosing how to act. When you reflect quietly, you allow emotions to settle, thoughts to clear, and truth to emerge. You create distance between what happens and what you do next. That distance can change everything. A calm mind sees more options. A quiet reflection uncovers deeper insight. By giving yourself even a few moments to reflect, you protect your energy, preserve your relationships, and align your response with your values instead of your impulses. Most people underestimate the damage that impulsive reactions can cause. A single angry word, a careless decision, or a defensive reply can set off a chain reaction that takes days or years to repair. But when you make reflection a habit, you learn to see situations from a broader perspective. You start to ask better questions. What is really happening here? What am I feeling? And why? What outcome do I truly want? These questions slow down the emotional storm and guide you back to awareness. With time, reflection becomes your first instinct rather than your last resort. In daily life, opportunities to react are everywhere. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker makes a critical comment. A friend forgets something important. Each of these moments can pull you into reactivity if you are not grounded. But reflection teaches you not to take the bait. It teaches you that your peace is worth more than being right. It reminds you that how you respond reveals more about your inner world than about the situation itself. Your reactions are a mirror of your discipline, not of the event. Quiet reflection is also essential in emotionally charged moments. When you feel anger, disappointment, jealousy, or sadness, the natural urge is to act immediately to release that discomfort. But those first impulses often come from pain, not clarity. They come from unhealed parts of you that want relief, not resolution. By reflecting instead of reacting, you give those emotions a chance to be felt without being projected. You create a safe space within yourself to understand what's really going on, and from that place of awareness, you respond with purpose rather than pain. Reflection is not about overthinking or withdrawing from life. It is not about freezing or avoiding hard truths. It is about pausing long enough to make conscious decisions. In many cases, that pause only needs to last a few seconds. A deep breath, a silent count to 10, a quiet reminder to choose your higher self. These simple practices train your mind to stay calm when your emotions want to take over. Over time, these micro-reflections shape how you show up in every area of life. There is a kind of maturity that only comes from learning to pause. It is the maturity to not let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. It is the strength to respond with intention, even when you are provoked. It is the wisdom to realize that not everything needs a reaction, and not every reaction serves your growth. This maturity is not something you are born with. It is something you build through quiet reflection, through consistent practice, and through choosing presence over impulse. In relationships, reflection protects connection. Many arguments are not caused by the situation itself, but by the way people react in the heat of the moment. A careless word spoken in frustration can damage trust. A defensive tone can shut down understanding. When you reflect before responding, you create space for empathy. You ask yourself what the other person might be feeling.
You consider their perspective before assuming the worst.
This doesn't mean you ignore your own feelings, but that you give both sides the respect they deserve. It allows you to communicate with clarity instead of confusion. In decision-making, reflection prevents regret. When faced with pressure, uncertainty, or urgency, the temptation is to decide quickly and get it over with. But important decisions require depth, not speed. Quiet reflection allows you to weigh your values, consider the consequences, and check your intentions. It prevents you from making choices that feel good in the moment, but go against your deeper goals. It helps you align your actions with who you want to become. That alignment builds self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation of inner peace. Reflection also helps you process past experiences. Life is full of moments that stay with us, disappointments, failures, hurts, and missed opportunities. If you never take time to sit with those moments, they quietly shape your reactions in the present. But when you reflect on them with honesty and compassion, you release their grip. You learn the lesson without carrying the wound. You see how each moment has helped you grow. This kind of reflection turns pain into wisdom and experience into strength. To make reflection a daily practice, start small. After each conversation, ask yourself how you responded. Did you speak from awareness or emotion? Did you listen fully or react too quickly? At the end of each day, take a few minutes to sit in silence and review how you handled your moments. This is not about judging yourself. It's about understanding yourself. That understanding builds confidence. It helps you move forward with greater calm and clarity. Make time for silence. Even 5 minutes of stillness each morning can reset your mind. In silence, your nervous system slows down, your thoughts settle, and your deeper wisdom begins to speak. It's in the quiet that you hear your truth most clearly. It's in the quiet that you remember what truly matters. And it's from the quiet that your best responses emerge. The most grounded people are not those who never feel emotion. They are the ones who know how to hold their emotion long enough to understand it before acting on it. They choose not to let the external world control their internal state. They have trained themselves to respond with clarity instead of chaos. And that training begins with one small decision to reflect quietly before reacting. There is a kind of peace that comes from no longer needing to win every argument or prove every point. There is a kind of strength that comes from knowing you are in control of your own reactions. That peace and strength are available to anyone willing to pause, anyone willing to listen inward before speaking outward, Anyone willing to be still long enough to hear what their higher self would say. You can create a life that is no longer ruled by reactivity, a life where you meet challenges with calm, where you handle conflict with grace, and where your words are shaped by purpose rather than pressure. This is not an instant shift. It is a daily commitment, a choice to slow down, breathe deeply, and return to your center before you respond. And with each choice you build a new pattern, a pattern of thoughtful presence, a pattern of emotional maturity, a pattern that becomes your path forward. Chapter 4. Ask thoughtful questions that help others open up. Many people want to feel seen, heard, and understood, yet they rarely experience conversations that allow them to open up fully. In most interactions, people speak to be heard but rarely ask to truly understand. The key to deeper connection is learning to ask questions that invite others to share who they are, not just what they do. When you ask thoughtful questions, you become someone who opens emotional doors. You create safety, presence, and space for truth to emerge. You give people the chance to express what often goes unspoken, and in doing so, you form relationships that are rich, genuine, and meaningful. Thoughtful questions are more than small talk. They are designed to go beneath the surface. Instead of asking what someone does for work, you ask what they enjoy about their work. Instead of asking how someone's day was, you ask what moment today felt most fulfilling or most difficult. These questions encourage people to pause, think, and reflect on their experience. They signal that you care not just about facts, but about feelings and meaning. And when someone feels that kind of curiosity from you, they begin to trust you with their truth. When you shift your focus from talking about yourself to asking about others with genuine interest, the entire energy of a conversation changes. Most people are not used to being asked meaningful questions. They often go through their day unnoticed, unheard, and emotionally disconnected. When you break that pattern with presence and curiosity, people soften, they become more open. They feel safe enough to share their real story, and from that moment, the relationship begins to deepen. To ask thoughtful questions, you first need to slow down. Instead of rushing into the next point, you pause and really listen. You pay attention not just to what is said, but to what is not said. You notice tone, body language, and emotional cues. This level of awareness helps you ask questions that are relevant, sensitive, and well-timed. You are not asking just to keep the conversation going. You are asking because you genuinely want to understand. A powerful question is simple, open-ended, and specific enough to spark real insight. You might ask, what's been on your mind lately? Or what's something you've learned about yourself recently? You could ask, what's a challenge you're working through right now? Or what has brought you the most peace lately? These are not interrogations, they are gentle invitations to explore. They offer a person the opportunity to go inward and bring something meaningful to the surface. Listening deeply is just as important as asking. Once someone starts opening up, resist the urge to interrupt, advise, or compare with your own story. Just be present, give them your full attention. Sometimes silence is the most respectful response, because it shows you are holding space for their words to land fully. Your job is not to fix or judge, but to understand, and often, the act of being heard without interruption is healing in itself. When you consistently ask thoughtful questions, you also start to learn a lot about human nature. You realize that people want more than anything to feel valued. You notice patterns, how people light up when talking about their passions, how they pause when touching on pain, how they open up more when they feel no pressure to perform. You become attuned, not just to words but to emotional undercurrents. And with that awareness comes empathy, compassion, and emotional intelligence. These skills serve you in every area of life. In friendships, thoughtful questions build trust and closeness. In relationships, they uncover deeper needs and desires. In leadership, they inspire openness, innovation, and loyalty. In everyday conversations, they create moments of real connection in a world full of distraction. And in conflict, they de-escalate tension by focusing on understanding instead of winning. Sometimes, the right question at the right time can change someone's life. It can give them clarity they didn't know they needed. It can help them process a feeling they've been avoiding. It can remind them that they are not alone. You never know what someone is carrying until you ask with care. You never know what insight or emotion is waiting beneath the surface until you invite it to emerge with respect and kindness. To become better at asking thoughtful questions, practice curiosity without agenda. Let go of the need to impress or perform. Don't plan your next statement while the other person is speaking. Instead, let each answer naturally lead to the next question. Follow the emotional breadcrumbs. If someone shares something vulnerable, don't change the subject. Honor their openness with deeper presence. The best questions are born, not from a script, but from sincere attention. Another powerful practice is to reflect on your own experience of being asked meaningful questions. Think about a time when someone asked you something that made you pause and go deeper. What did it feel like? What made that question stand out? Often it's not the complexity of the question that matters, but the intention behind it. The best questions feel like a hand gently reaching into your inner world, not a spotlight trying to expose it. It's also important to respect boundaries. Thoughtful questions should never feel invasive or manipulative. They should never be used to gain control or satisfy curiosity at someone else's expense. The goal is connection, not extraction. Ask with humility, ask with kindness, and always allow the other person to answer as much or as little as they wish. True connection is built on freedom, not pressure. With practice, thoughtful questions become part of your natural way of communicating. You begin to approach every conversation as a chance to learn, to connect, to understand. You become the kind of person others feel safe around, the kind of person they turn to when they need to talk. The kind of person who makes others feel seen in a world that too often looks away. Thoughtful questions also help you grow. When you practice asking others about their inner world, you begin to explore your own more honestly. You become more aware of what drives you, what holds you back, and what lights you up. You start to ask yourself better questions. What matters most to me right now? What am I avoiding that needs my attention? What am I grateful for today? This inner dialogue strengthens your self-awareness and deepens your ability to connect with others. A life filled with meaningful connection starts with simple choices. The choice to be curious instead of judgmental, the choice to ask rather than assume, the choice to listen instead of interrupt, and the choice to value depth over speed in your conversations. These choices create a ripple effect. One thoughtful question can lead to a deeper conversation, which can lead to a stronger bond, which can lead to a more compassionate world. Every day you have opportunities to invite others to share more of who they are. Each moment of presence, each carefully chosen question, each act of listening plants a seed, and over time those seeds grow into relationships that are honest, open, and alive. By asking thoughtful questions, you don't just become a better communicator, you become a more understanding, compassionate, and wise human being. And in a world that needs more connection, that is no small thing. Chapter 5. Slow down your speech to think more clearly. Speaking too quickly can disconnect you from what you truly want to say. When your words race ahead of your thoughts, clarity gets lost. You may say something you don't mean, forget what matters most, or cause confusion in those who are listening. Slowing down your speech is not just about pacing, it's about gaining control over your mind, choosing your words with care, and staying connected to the present moment. It helps you move through conversations with intention instead of reactivity. In a world that constantly rushes forward, speaking slowly can become a powerful act of self-discipline and inner peace. The pace at which you speak reflects the state of your mind. A restless mind produces rushed speech, often filled with unnecessary filler and reactive emotion. A calm and focused mind allows for deliberate expression. When you slow down, you create space to think, feel, and respond rather than react. That space is where maturity, thoughtfulness, and wisdom emerge. You give yourself a moment to breathe before words leave your mouth, and in that breath you often find a better way to say what you really mean. One of the reasons people speak quickly is because they feel pressure. Pressure to impress, to be understood, to avoid silence, or to be heard before someone interrupts. This anxiety fuels a hurried way of communicating that prioritizes speed over clarity. But when you trust that what you have to say matters, you don't rush. You allow your thoughts to form fully. You speak not to fill space, but to bring meaning to it. Speaking slowly reflects confidence, control, and clarity, not hesitation or weakness. When you slow down, others listen differently. Your words carry more weight. People lean in, rather than tune out. You sound more thoughtful, because you are taking the time to actually think. This shift earns trust. It gives people the sense that you're grounded and deliberate. It makes it easier for them to follow what you're saying and understand your point. Communication becomes smoother, cleaner, and more impactful. Practicing slower speech begins with self-awareness. Pay attention to how fast you talk during different situations. Notice what triggers you to speed up. Maybe it's nervousness, excitement, or the fear of being misunderstood. Begin by pausing more. Before responding, take a short breath. Let the question settle. Even a second of stillness helps center your thoughts. Use that pause not to rehearse, but to connect with what's true. That moment is not wasted. It's where real understanding begins. Think of speech as a tool. If used too fast, it becomes blunt and imprecise. When used with intention, it becomes sharp and clear. The goal is not to talk less necessarily, but to talk with greater purpose, to express what is true rather than what is automatic. Speaking slowly helps reduce emotional reactivity. It gives you time to catch yourself before words spill out. You might regret. It's a filter that keeps emotion from driving your mouth before your mind has time to process. Slower speech also benefits your thinking. As your words slow down, your thoughts become more organized. You don't just talk better, you think better. You begin to process your ideas in a more structured way. This leads to better articulation and stronger communication. You find yourself making fewer corrections, needing less explanation, and feeling more aligned with your message. It becomes easier to stay on point, avoid tangents, and remain focused on what truly matters. This habit of slowing down has an effect far beyond communication. It affects how you handle life. In stressful moments, the ability to pause and speak with calm helps you navigate conflict with grace. In important conversations, it helps you listen more deeply and respond more effectively. In casual moments, it helps you feel more present and authentic. You don't rush through experiences, you live them more fully. Developing this habit takes practice. Start by becoming more comfortable with silence. Many people fear pauses, thinking they must fill them immediately, but silence is not your enemy. It's a tool for deeper awareness. Use pauses to breathe, collect your thoughts, and observe the moment. In conversations, allow short gaps before you reply. If it feels awkward at first, stay with it. In time, those pauses will feel natural, even powerful. You can also practice this by reading aloud at a slower pace. Choose something meaningful and focus on speaking with clarity, feeling each word as it passes through you. This builds muscle memory for slower speech. Record yourself speaking and play it back. Listen not for performance, but for pace. Ask yourself, does this sound rushed or relaxed, clear or cluttered? When you're in a conversation, focus on listening fully, then responding slowly. Don't rush to speak. Let the space between words become part of the rhythm. Another way to improve this habit is by writing before speaking. Journaling your thoughts regularly helps you understand what you think and feel. When you know your inner landscape, you speak from a more rooted place. You're not trying to find your thoughts as you speak. You're expressing them from a place of understanding. This naturally slows your speech and sharpens your focus. Slowing down also encourages humility. It reminds you that you don't need to prove yourself with every word. You don't need to dominate a conversation or rush through your points. You have the power to wait, to think, and to speak only when it adds value. This approach brings a quiet strength. It shows that you're in control of yourself. It sets a tone of respect, both for yourself and for others. In relationships, slowing your speech helps reduce misunderstandings. When you pause to think, you avoid saying things that might hurt or confuse. You become more mindful of your tone, your intent, and your effect on others. Communication becomes less about reacting and more about relating. You speak with care because you care. You don't just deliver information, you build connection. In difficult situations, slow speech can help you stay calm, whether you're giving feedback, resolving conflict, or expressing disappointment. Speaking slowly keeps emotion in check. It shows maturity and composure. It allows you to express what you feel without being overtaken by it. This calm presence creates safety for others to speak honestly and listen fully. In professional settings, slow and clear speech is a mark of leadership. It shows you are not rushed by pressure. You take time to think, and others follow your pace. It helps in meetings, presentations, and negotiations. When you speak with intention, people perceive you as trustworthy and competent. You communicate with clarity, and clarity builds confidence. Every time you slow down, you reclaim your power. You choose awareness over impulse. You choose depth over noise. You choose meaning over habit. The world may keep moving fast, but you don't have to match its pace. You can bring presence into every word. You can choose calm over chaos. And with every pause you teach yourself to think more clearly and speak more truthfully. Over time, you'll notice the shift. Your conversations will feel more grounded. Your thoughts will become more focused. Your communication will grow more powerful. You'll feel less rushed, more in control, and more connected to what matters. This simple habit, speaking slowly, is not just about communication. It's about clarity of mind, strength of presence, and mastery of self. It's a practice that doesn't just change how you speak, it changes how you live. Chapter 6. Notice body language to read unspoken emotions. Reading people without hearing them speak is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Emotions often speak louder through body language than through words, yet most people miss what is being said because they are only listening with their ears. Learning to notice body language gives you access to a deeper layer of understanding that builds stronger relationships, avoids conflict, and connects you to the truth behind what others are feeling. The human body expresses emotions in subtle ways through facial expressions, posture, hand movements, and even the direction someone looks when thinking. These signs are often involuntary, revealing what a person might be too uncomfortable to say or unsure how to express. By tuning into these nonverbal cues, you begin to see beyond appearances. You move from assuming to truly perceiving. When people are uncomfortable, they rarely say it directly. Instead, they might cross their arms, shift their weight from side to side, or avoid eye contact. These signals can be easy to overlook, but when noticed, they speak volumes. They show a person's inner tension, hesitation, or unease. The more present you are, the more clearly these signs appear. A slight tightening of the jaw, A nervous foot tap, or the way someone suddenly looks away can all be quiet indicators of what's really happening inside them. If you rush through conversations, distracted or focused only on what to say next, you miss these clues. But if you slow down and stay fully engaged, people reveal themselves without even knowing it. Understanding unspoken emotions is not about judging people, it's about becoming more aware of the signals they unconsciously share. It's a form of compassion. When you understand what someone feels but cannot say, you can respond with greater sensitivity. You become less reactive, more supportive, and more capable of guiding the conversation in a helpful direction. This doesn't require mind reading. It requires presence, patience, and attention. When you stop focusing only on words and start observing the whole person, your understanding deepens. To develop this awareness, start by watching people without rushing to respond. Pay attention to how they enter a room, how they sit, how they use their hands, and where their eyes go. Body language also helps you understand group dynamics. In meetings, for example, you might notice who looks engaged, who's anxious, who's checked out, and who's waiting to speak. This allows you to navigate the room more skillfully, inviting those who feel overlooked to contribute or calming down those who seem stressed. You're no longer just hearing what's being said, you're reading the emotional temperature of the space. This makes you more effective, more grounded, and more trusted by others. But to truly master this awareness, you must also become aware of your own body language. How do you sit when you're confident? How do you stand when you're uncomfortable? What do your eyes do when you're distracted or bored? Learning to notice these habits in yourself builds empathy. It helps you recognize how others might be reading you and how to bring your body into alignment with your intentions. If you want to appear open and grounded, your body must reflect that. Standing tall, maintaining relaxed eye contact, and using open gestures all signal that you are present, respectful, and engaged. This mutual awareness creates more honest, meaningful interactions. It dissolves misunderstanding and builds deeper trust. When your words and body align, others feel safe with you. When you read their unspoken signals with kindness, they feel understood. This skill becomes a quiet superpower. It helps you connect without forcing connection. It helps you lead without controlling. It helps you see people not just as they present themselves, but as they truly are. To sharpen your observation skills, practice in everyday life. Watch people in public spaces, on the train, at a cafe, or walking down the street. Notice how they move, where they look, how they carry themselves. Don't make judgments. Just observe, pay attention to details, then start practicing in your own conversations. Stay fully present. Focus more on the person than on your next sentence. Listen not just with your ears, but with your eyes. Let your awareness guide your responses. The more you train yourself to notice body language, the more fluent you become in emotional awareness. You stop being surprised by people's behavior because you've already sensed what's beneath the surface. You communicate with more precision because you speak to what matters. You form deeper bonds because people feel that you understand them on a level that words can't reach. Mastering this doesn't require perfection. You will sometimes misread signals. That's okay. What matters is the intention behind your awareness, the desire to understand others more deeply. That intention sharpens your perception and builds emotional intelligence over time. With consistent practice, your relationships become more connected, your conversations become more meaningful, and your sense of empathy grows stronger. Every person you meet carries invisible emotions. When you learn to notice the language of their body, you learn to see beyond the surface. This skill gives you access to a world most people miss. It brings truth into focus and makes your presence more powerful, grounded, and compassionate. In a world full of noise, the ability to see what's unspoken is a form of wisdom that transforms how you lead, relate, and grow. Chapter 7. Practice silence to build inner strength and calm. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of depth. In a world where noise constantly surrounds us, through conversations, notifications, opinions, and demands, silence has become rare and unfamiliar. Yet within silence lies one of the greatest strengths a person can build. Choosing silence is not about avoiding others or shutting down communication. It is about learning to return to yourself, to listen inwardly, and to build the kind of strength that does not depend on external validation. When you practice silence deliberately, you create a space where thoughts can settle, emotions can be understood, and clarity can rise from within. Most people speak as a way to escape silence, fearing the discomfort of being alone with their thoughts. But silence does not create discomfort, it reveals it. When you sit in stillness, you come face to face with the noise within, restlessness, worries, frustrations, or unresolved thoughts. That's where growth begins. The moment you stop distracting yourself and allow silence to take over, your inner world becomes more visible. You begin to understand your patterns, your reactions, and your true needs. This is not easy, but it is essential for developing calm and resilience. Silence trains you to slow down and see things as they are. Without pressure to speak or respond, you begin to observe more accurately. Your mind stops racing to defend, argue, or impress. You begin to notice the flow of your breath, the rhythm of your heartbeat, and the sensations in your body. These simple, quiet moments help you reconnect with your physical and emotional state. You realize how much energy is often wasted on reacting to things that do not truly matter. In silence, you conserve that energy and redirect it inward toward awareness, discipline, and focus. Practicing silence can start with small intentional pauses throughout your day. Begin your morning in quiet, before reaching for your phone or speaking to anyone. Take 5 minutes to simply breathe and sit with yourself. In those 5 minutes, resist the urge to plan, judge, or analyze. Just be. Let your thoughts come and go without holding on to them. This helps reset your nervous system and grounds you for the day ahead. Throughout your day, find moments to return to that silence, before a meeting, during a walk, or while waiting in line. These brief moments are not wasted time. They are chances to return to center. When you create space for silence, you become less reactive. You gain the ability to pause before speaking, to think before acting, and to respond with intention instead of impulse. This pause is powerful. It gives you control over your emotions, even in stressful or emotional situations. You don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You don't have to prove your worth with constant talking. Your silence speaks confidence and groundedness. Others begin to sense that you don't need to dominate a conversation to hold your presence. Silence also teaches humility. When you are not speaking, you are learning. You allow others to share their thoughts without interruption. You give people space to express themselves, and in doing so you grow in empathy and understanding. You become someone who listens deeply, who respects the silence of others, and who doesn't fill every gap with noise. In relationships, this creates trust. People feel safer around those who don't rush to talk, but are content to simply be present. In moments of stress or confusion, silence becomes a source of strength. Instead of reacting immediately, you take time to sit with your feelings. This helps you make better decisions. It prevents unnecessary conflict and gives you room to consider what truly matters. When the world feels chaotic, silence grounds you. It reminds you that you don't need to have all the answers right now. You can wait, observe, and allow clarity to arrive naturally. To build this habit, consider setting aside time each day for complete silence. Turn off all devices, sit comfortably, and let yourself experience stillness without distraction. You don't need a specific goal. The point is not to escape the world, but to reconnect with yourself. This is where insight and calm are born, not from rushing or forcing, but from allowing space for what's already within you to emerge. Over time, your tolerance for silence will grow, and with it, your inner stability. Spending time in nature can also deepen your relationship with silence. In natural settings, the silence is not empty. It is filled with subtle sounds that remind you of your connection to life. The wind in the trees, the rustling of leaves, the distant chirping of birds, these quiet rhythms calm your nervous system and bring you back to the present. Nature teaches you that silence is not something to escape, but something to embrace. It is in these moments that you feel most alive and clear. Silence is also an important part of your self-respect. When you don't feel the need to explain yourself constantly, when you can sit in a room and listen without forcing your views, you show strength. You no longer seek approval through your words. You become comfortable with simply being, with letting your actions and presence speak for you. This is the mark of someone who has found peace within themselves. It does not mean you are passive. It means you choose your words with care, and you act from a place of inner clarity. Building this kind of silence is not about isolation. It's about connection, first with yourself, and then with others. The more time you spend in silence, the more fully present you become in conversations. You begin to speak less but say more. Your words carry weight because they come from reflection, not reaction. People listen to you not because you talk a lot, but because your presence commands attention through quiet confidence. As your relationship with silence deepens, you begin to see it as a source of wisdom. In silence, you come to understand what you truly value. You begin to separate what matters from what doesn't. You see through distractions and stay focused on your purpose. You build patience. You learn to trust the timing of things. You stop chasing noise and begin creating space for growth, truth, and meaning. The world will always try to pull you into noise, but your strength lies in your ability to return to silence. It is in this stillness that your mind becomes clear, your heart becomes steady, and your actions become intentional. Chapter 8. Write your thoughts to sharpen your self-awareness. Writing is not just an act of putting words on paper. It is a way of stepping outside your mind and seeing your thoughts clearly. Most of the time, thoughts pass quickly, shifting from one feeling to the next, often without notice. When you write, you slow down this process and become aware of what is actually going on inside you. It allows you to examine your reactions, beliefs, hopes, fears, and doubts without judgment. The moment you put pen to paper, you create distance between yourself and your thoughts, and in that space, self-awareness begins to grow. Writing your thoughts each day helps you understand yourself in ways that thinking alone cannot. The mind tends to repeat familiar patterns. Without awareness, you may find yourself stuck in loops, overanalyzing, overthinking, or ignoring emotions you don't want to face. Writing breaks this loop by forcing you to pause and express. It reveals how you think, what you avoid, and what truly matters to you. It doesn't require perfect grammar or elegant sentences. It only requires honesty. This honesty builds a deeper relationship with yourself that no outside voice can give you. When you begin to write regularly, you might be surprised by what surfaces. Things that felt small begin to show their weight. Thoughts that seemed unimportant become keys to greater clarity. Writing helps you ask yourself hard questions and find answers within. You don't need to know exactly what to write about. You can start by describing how your day went, what you felt during a moment of stress, or what you hope to improve. Over time, this practice turns into a conversation with yourself, one that builds understanding, focus, and discipline. One of the greatest benefits of writing is the ability to notice patterns. You may see how often certain worries appear, or how your energy shifts throughout the week. You may recognize the people or situations that trigger stress and the habits that help you return to calm. These patterns are not always obvious in daily life, but they become clear when you read your past reflections. This awareness gives you the power to make intentional changes, instead of repeating the same choices without thinking. Writing also helps you slow down. Life moves quickly, and the pressure to keep up can make it hard to process your experiences. When you write, you give yourself the gift of stillness. You step away from distractions and enter a space where only your thoughts matter. This slowing down creates room for insight. It allows you to respond to life with greater awareness, instead of reacting on autopilot. You become more intentional with your time, your energy, and your focus. Writing is especially powerful during difficult times. When emotions are high and your mind feels scattered, writing brings order to chaos. It doesn't solve every problem, but it helps you see what's happening beneath the surface. You begin to understand what you're really feeling, not just the anger or anxiety, but the fear or sadness behind it. This awareness does not make you weak. It makes you honest. And with honesty, you can begin to heal and grow stronger. You can start by writing for just 5 minutes a day. There is no need for rules or structure at first. What matters is that you show up. Create a space where you feel calm and safe. Turn off your phone, open a notebook or document. Begin with whatever comes to mind. Write without judgment. Let your thoughts flow freely. Over time, you may find value in asking yourself specific questions. What am I avoiding? What do I truly want? What did I learn today? These questions help guide your focus and deepen your reflection. Over time, your writing becomes a record of your growth. You can look back at old entries and see how far you've come. You can see the shifts in your mindset, the lessons you've learned, and the strength you've built. This reflection is not about measuring success by achievements. It is about recognizing progress in awareness, discipline, and peace. You begin to trust yourself more. You realize that even when life feels uncertain, you have a way to stay connected to who you are. Writing also improves your ability to communicate with others. As you become clearer with yourself, your words become more thoughtful and grounded. You speak with more intention and listen with more presence. You no longer feel the need to talk just to be heard. Instead, you value meaningful conversations built on understanding and honesty. This shift deepens your relationships and helps you become someone others feel safe opening up to. There is also a sense of freedom that comes from writing. It gives you permission to express without fear of judgment. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You don't need approval or applause. You write for yourself. This act of expression builds inner strength. It reminds you that your thoughts and feelings matter, even if no one else sees them. It teaches you to trust your inner voice and to find clarity from within. Writing your thoughts also sharpens your focus. When you write about your goals, your values, and your intentions, you become more aligned with what matters. You start living more consciously. Instead of drifting through the day without direction, you begin to filter out noise and focus on what brings meaning to your life. Your writing becomes a compass, a tool you use to check in, reset, and move forward with purpose. You don't need to be a writer to benefit from this practice. You only need a desire to understand yourself better. Every sentence you write is a step toward clarity. Every reflection is a doorway to growth. And every time you choose to write instead of distract yourself, you build the kind of discipline that creates long-term change. There will be days when writing feels difficult. Your mind will resist, or your thoughts may feel too scattered to express. These are the moments that matter most. When you write, even when it's hard, you train yourself to face discomfort instead of running from it. You show yourself that growth does not come from ease but from consistency and courage. And over time this habit becomes a source of strength, a quiet but powerful act of self-respect. In the silence of writing, you become more than your roles, your stress, or your past. You reconnect with your deeper self. You learn to listen inwardly, to question gently, and to understand patiently. Writing becomes a mirror, not one that reflects how the world sees you, but one that shows who you truly are. And in seeing yourself clearly, you begin to live more honestly, speak more wisely, and move through life with greater strength and peace. Chapter 9. Choose words wisely to make each one matter. Words carry weight whether we recognize it or not. Every sentence we speak either builds something meaningful or takes something away. The way we use words has the power to shape relationships, influence outcomes, and guide the direction of our lives. Often we speak without fully considering what we are saying. We fill space with noise, offer opinions without reflection, or react emotionally without clarity. But when we learn to choose our words wisely, we begin to speak with purpose rather than impulse. This shift in how we communicate leads to greater respect, stronger connections, and deeper trust, both with others and within ourselves. Choosing words carefully starts with learning to pause before speaking. When we rush to respond, we often speak from emotion or ego rather than from calm and understanding. Taking a moment to breathe and think allows us to align our words with our values. It helps us speak from a place of honesty and responsibility rather than defensiveness or pride. This doesn't mean becoming silent or passive. It means speaking with clarity and intention, where every word contributes to a better outcome. When we are intentional with our speech, we begin to notice how different tones, phrases, and expressions affect those around us. A kind word can restore someone's confidence. A careless comment can damage trust. Speaking wisely is not about saying less, it's about saying what matters. It's about understanding the impact of our voice and using it to uplift rather than harm. It's about seeing language as a tool, not a weapon. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to express who we are and what we stand for. Being selective with your words also means avoiding the habit of speaking just to fill silence. Silence is not something to be feared or escaped. It is a space where clarity can grow. When you stop rushing to respond, you make room to listen deeply, to process thoughtfully, and to speak meaningfully. You begin to value depth over noise, truth over approval. You no longer seek to impress with words but to express with care. You understand that what you don't say can often speak louder than what you do. One of the most important aspects of choosing your words wisely is knowing your intention. Before speaking, ask yourself what you are trying to achieve. Are you trying to help or prove something? Are you seeking connection or control? Are you expressing truth or reacting from fear? When you are clear about your intention, your words naturally become more honest and grounded. You speak less to be right and more to be real. You communicate not to dominate, but to connect. Clarity in language begins with clarity in thought. If your thoughts are scattered or unclear, your words will reflect that confusion. Taking time to think things through before speaking helps reduce misunderstandings and strengthens your message. Writing down your thoughts can help. Practicing mindful pauses in conversation can help. Reflecting on your values and priorities before important discussions can help. With practice, you begin to build the habit of thinking first, speaking second. In today's fast-moving world, many people feel pressure to respond instantly, but real strength lies in thoughtful communication. You don't need to have the perfect answer on the spot. You don't need to match the speed or volume of others. You only need to be clear, honest, and grounded in your own truth. The more you speak from this place, the more you develop inner confidence. You don't waste words on gossip, exaggeration, or defense. You speak when it matters, and people begin to listen. Choosing your words wisely also means being mindful of your tone. The same words can carry different meanings, depending on how they are said. A soft tone can soothe. A harsh one can spark conflict. A calm voice invites trust. An impatient voice creates distance. Developing awareness of your tone is just as important as your choice of words. Tone reflects your inner state, and the more grounded you are, the more your tone supports connection rather than division. Another part of wise speech is learning when to say nothing at all. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every opinion needs to be shared. There is power in restraint. Holding back a judgment, a criticism, or a defensive comment can prevent unnecessary harm. Silence is not weakness. It is often the strongest response when you are tempted to speak out of anger or pride. In moments of conflict or confusion, silence gives you time to reflect and choose a better response. Respecting the power of your words also means taking responsibility for them. If your words cause harm, own it. If your words create misunderstanding, clarify them. If your words build someone up, let it be sincere. Integrity in speech is a key part of self-mastery. It means being honest without being harsh, being kind without being fake, and being real without being reckless. It's not always easy, but with each conversation you practice and grow stronger. Over time, this practice of wise speech transforms how people see you. They begin to trust that your words are not empty. They listen more closely because they know you speak with intention. Your communication becomes clear, calm, and direct. You begin to influence not through volume but through presence. Your words begin to carry a quiet strength, one that is rooted in discipline, clarity, and respect. This shift in speech also changes your inner dialogue. As you speak more carefully to others, you begin to speak more kindly to yourself. Your thoughts become less reactive, more grounded. You catch yourself before spiraling into doubt or negativity. You begin to question the words you use in your own mind. Are they helpful or harmful? Are they true or just fear? The way you speak to yourself becomes more compassionate, more encouraging, and more real. Speaking wisely is not about perfection. It's a daily choice. Some days you will speak too quickly. Some moments you will regret a reaction. That's okay. The goal is not to be flawless but to be conscious. Every time you catch yourself and choose differently, you grow. Every pause, every deep breath, every thoughtful word is a step toward deeper awareness. You become someone who speaks not to impress but to express, not to control but to connect, not to react but to respond. The world does not need more noise. It needs more voices that speak with care. It needs more people who think before they talk, who speak with humility, and who use their words to bring clarity and calm. When you choose your words wisely, you become a force of steadiness in a world full of distraction. You create trust in your relationships. You gain confidence in your purpose, and you build a life rooted in awareness, patience, and depth. Speak when you have something meaningful to say. Speak with the intention to help, not to harm. Speak from truth, not from ego. Let your words reflect your strength, your thoughtfulness, and your self-respect. And when you have nothing to say, let your silence be just as powerful. Chapter 10. Live each day with patience, understanding, and purpose. Living each day with patience, understanding, and purpose is not just a way to improve your life, but a way to bring peace and meaning into everything you do. Life moves fast, and it's easy to get caught in the rush of tasks, responsibilities, and distractions. But when you start each day grounded in patience, open to understanding, and guided by purpose, you create a life that is steady, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. This mindset doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters with full awareness. It's about choosing to live intentionally rather than reacting unconsciously. Patience is the ability to accept that not everything needs to happen right away. It means letting go of the need to control every outcome and trusting that things will unfold as they should. It teaches you to wait without frustration, to act without force, and to understand that growth, healing and clarity take time. When you become patient, you free yourself from constant tension. You learn to breathe in difficult moments. You learn to listen more and push less. You give yourself and others the space to grow, the time to understand, and the freedom to be human. Patience is not passive. It is active strength in disguise. It's what helps you remain steady when the world is uncertain. Understanding is the next key. It allows you to see beyond your own perspective. It helps you realize that everyone you meet is going through something you can't fully see. When you seek to understand rather than judge, you build deeper connections. You listen not to reply but to hear. You stop assuming and start asking. You don't take things personally because you realize most actions are shaped by unseen stories. Understanding creates space in your heart. It softens the way you speak, the way you react, and the way you carry yourself. You begin to lead with compassion, even in tough situations. You start to recognize pain behind anger, fear behind resistance, and longing behind distance. This shift changes how you relate to people, and it makes you a calming presence in a loud world. Purpose is what gives meaning to every action. Without it, life becomes a series of habits and obligation. But when you live with purpose, every day becomes a chance to move in the direction that matters most to you. Purpose is not always one big mission. It's often found in the little things. It's in how you show up for others, how you take care of your responsibilities, and how you handle challenges with grace. Purpose gives your life structure without making it rigid. It gives your actions weight without making them heavy. It helps you wake up with clarity and go to bed with peace. It's what drives you to keep going when things get hard. When you live with purpose, you don't just go through the day, you move through it with intention, focus, and heart. To live each day with these three qualities, you have to slow down and reflect. Ask yourself each morning, what kind of person do I want to be today? Not what do I need to accomplish, but how do I want to show up? Let that guide your actions. Be mindful of how you respond when things don't go your way. Remind yourself that every moment is a chance to practice patience. When people frustrate or confuse you, remind yourself to pause and seek understanding. And when the day feels routine or overwhelming, remind yourself that even the smallest action can serve your purpose when done with intention. This mindset also helps you stay grounded in difficult times. Patience keeps you calm when progress feels slow. Understanding keeps you kind when people test your limits. Purpose keeps you motivated when the path ahead is unclear. Together, these qualities act like a compass, always bringing you back to what matters most. You start to move through the day with less resistance and more acceptance. You stop rushing through your life and start living inside of it, moment by moment, decision by decision. You will notice your stress levels decrease because you're no longer measuring your worth by how much you get done. You will notice your relationships improve because people feel seen and respected. You will notice that even hard days carry meaning because you no longer view them as setbacks, but as lessons in your larger journey. This is how you build a strong, centered, and peaceful life, not by chasing after more, but by showing up fully in what's already in front of you. You don't need to be perfect at this. You just need to be consistent. Some days you'll feel frustrated and impatient. Some moments you won't understand others or even yourself. Some choices will feel far from purposeful. That's okay. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. What matters is that you return to the mindset. When you notice yourself drifting, come back to it. Breathe, reflect, begin again. That act of returning is powerful. It builds resilience. It strengthens your character. It deepens your sense of peace. Living this way is not about denying your emotions or hiding your struggles. It's about facing them with maturity and grace. When you're patient, you allow yourself to feel without losing control. When you're understanding, you acknowledge the complexity of people without turning cold. When you live with purpose, you turn even your pain into progress. You don't need grand achievements to prove your worth. You just need the courage to live each day fully, honestly, and with intention. This approach also helps you align your actions with your values. You begin to notice when your choices are leading you away from your core beliefs. You feel the difference between reacting and responding, between rushing and moving with care, between drifting and living deliberately. And as you become more aligned, your life becomes more meaningful. You feel less lost, less pulled in different directions. You begin to trust yourself more because you know you are living in harmony with your deepest truths. You also start to treat time differently. Each day becomes more valuable because you're no longer wasting it on things that don't matter. You make time for reflection, for connection, and for rest. You focus on what truly fulfills you instead of chasing distractions. And in doing so, your days become simpler but richer. You are no longer just existing, you are living fully, one breath, one choice, and one act at a time. This way of living spreads to others. When you're patient, others feel safe around you. When you're understanding, they feel accepted. When you live with purpose, they feel inspired. You lead not through words, but through example. You become someone people trust, someone they look to when life feels uncertain. And in doing so, you create a quiet ripple of change in the world around you. The real beauty of this practice is that it doesn't require anything outside of you. It doesn't demand wealth, success, or recognition. It simply requires your attention and your choice. Every day is a new opportunity to live this way. No matter where you are, what you've been through, or what you're facing now, you can begin. You can choose patience over pressure, understanding over reaction, purpose over distraction. And when you do, life begins to feel less like something you have to survive, and more like something you are deeply connected to. You won't always get it right, but every time you try, you grow. Every time you choose presence over impatience, compassion over judgment, and intention over habit, you move closer to a life that is peaceful, powerful, and true to who you are. This is how change begins, quietly, daily, from the inside out, and over time that quiet effort becomes the most important work you will ever do.